The Marvel Universe might just be filled with superheroes and supervillains, but in a world filled with powerful beings, there's some that are a bit more super than others. Now, on paper, Doreen Green's power set doesn't seem that impressive, giving her increased strength, speed, and agility, and gifting her with a bushy squirrel tail from birth. However, it's the utilization of these powers that Squirrel Girl is apparently so gifted at, as this superhero has yet to be beaten by any villain in Marvel Comics. From MODOK to Thanos himself, all of these supervillains have been defeated by the unbeatable Squirrel Girl at one time or another, and while by this point it's just become a running joke that Squirrel Girl can defeat any villain off-panel, it's still an incredibly cool power set that makes Squirrel Girl one of my favorite young Avengers. Coming in at number 9, we have the Power Cosmic wielded by Galactus. One of the oldest beings in existence, Galactus was originally born in the multiverse that preceded the Marvel multiverse we know today, being the sole survivor of this reality and becoming an almost omnipotent devourer of planets in order to satisfy the massive amounts of power he now possesses. With enough power flowing through his veins to destroy multiple solar systems with a single attack, Galactus usually restrains himself and absorbs the life force of a single planet in order to sustain his tremendous strength, but could be so much more deadly if he ever chose to fully unleash Galactus's wrath. Coming in at number 8, we have the power of the Beyonder. Initially seeming to be completely unlimited in scope, the Beyonder's powers are some of the most fascinating in the Marvel Universe, as he first appeared after creating an entirely new planet for the heroes and villains of the Marvel Universe to wage a battle across. As the creator of this battle world, the Beyonder sought to seek who was the most powerful hero in the universe, and was able to easily repel the combined attacks of both Galactus and Victor Von Doom. While more recent events in the Marvel timeline have made it clear that the Beyonder isn't quite at the top of the Marvel Universe's power level list like initially believed, he's still an incredibly powerful reality warping foe, and many of Marvel's heroes would find themselves forever altered by the secret war on Battleworld. Coming in at number 7, we have the Phoenix Force. While many people may associate the Phoenix Force with solely Jean Grey or various X-Men stories, the Phoenix Force is allegedly one of the oldest cosmic entities in the entire Marvel Universe. Claiming to be the fire from which all things are born, the Phoenix Force appears to be born from the void in between states of matter, and the true source of all psionic and telepathic abilities in the Marvel Universe. The Phoenix Force is also uniquely capable of absorbing life force from the universe itself to increase its own strength, shortening the lifespan of the entire cosmos in order to gain more physical strength. No matter which form the Phoenix takes, it's always an incredibly powerful and fiery being that you wouldn't want to mess with. Coming in at number 6, we have Thor's God Blast. Thor has always been one of the most powerful Avengers, but his recent ascension to the throne of Asgard have given him strengths that even he didn't know about previously. During a battle with the Black Winter, a force that sought to devour the entire Marvel multiverse, Thor stared at the possibility of the end of all things and was able to harness an attack called the God Blast. Calling forth generations upon generations worth of former Allfather's rage combined, Thor turned this energy into a massive explosive wave that was finally able to slow down the Black Winter's progress. But given as how it didn't actually kill the Black Winter, Thor, my dude, you really need to start going for the head. Coming in at number 5, we have Ghost Rider's Penance Stare. With a literal flaming skull for a head, Ghost Rider is obviously a supernatural powerhouse when it comes to fighting the forces of evil. But his strongest ability has to be his iconic Penance Stare, a psychic attack which overwhelms the target with all of the remorse and trauma of any pain they have caused through their sins. While dependent on the strength of the Ghost Rider in question, at a minimum, the stare will cause a target to go catatonic, putting an easy end to a difficult fight. But if a target feels true remorse for their actions and had done truly terrible things, they might flat out ignite into hellfire and just die on the spot. The only beings seemingly capable of ignoring the effects of the Penance Stare are those without any remorse at all, such as Thanos, the Punisher, and even Deadpool himself. Coming in at number 4, we have the powers of Null, the dark god of the symbiotes. Having spent most of this multiverse's existence locked away within the symbiote home planet of Clintar, Null was eager to show the universe the true extent of his powers once he was finally freed from his cage due to the scheming of Carnage. Capable of controlling any symbiote throughout the entire universe, Null was able to form the deadliest army the cosmos had ever seen, complete with powered-up symbiote dragons that were far more capable than any symbiote that had ever been seen before. And while Null eventually was able to be defeated through the power of the Avengers united with Venom, his powers now reside within Eddie Brock, who now has his hands full just learning how to control their basics. Coming in at number 3, we have the Tactagon, one of the most powerful weapons in all of Marvel history. A deus ex machina in gun form, this alien weapon crash-landed on Earth long ago, before being discovered in the San Francisco Bay by a young teenage superhero. The weapon's power is simple. If you aim it at someone and shoot, the weapon will find a way to kill them, no matter the power level of whoever it was aimed at. The bullet will always adapt and find a way to still be a fatal weapon. Classified as an Omega level threat by the Avengers, this weapon was even capable of blasting a hole through the usually indestructible Ultimato, and has since had to be locked away deep underground under Avengers headquarters. Coming in at number 2, we have the powers of Franklin Richard, the son of Reed and Sue Richards, and the leader of the next generation of the Fantastic Four. Initially believed to be one of the most powerful mutants in all of existence, it was eventually revealed that Franklin's reality warping powers were so great that he'd altered his own X gene in the past to explain his powers as being of mutant origin. Capable of even creating entirely new universes, and with his power being listed as being equal to that of the original Celestials, and it's clear that Franklin Richards stands out on a tier of power almost entirely his own. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have the powers of the Sentry. The closest thing the Marvel Universe has to a Superman equivalent, the Sentry gained his powers as the result of the Canadian government attempting to recreate the original Super Soldier Serum, but by creating a soldier 100,000 times more powerful. When the serum was stolen by a drug addict named Robert Reynolds, it somehow gifted him with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, splitting his psyche into both the Sentry and the Void, but creating an invulnerable superhero so strong he could rip the Carnage symbiote in half and even stop the rampaging of the Hulk. While other characters' cosmic powers may be flashier or have bigger outcomes, the Sentry's status as Earth's strongest defender could not be overstated until he was surprise attacked during Null's war on the cosmos. But hey, I guess 1,000,000 exploding suns can't be all powerful all the time.
Starting off our list with something that may be a bit more on the common knowledge side for some of you guys, in at number 10 is he's incredibly strong. Now this is pretty much a given, but it's not the fact that he's got superhuman strength that's the surprise. It's how far that superhuman strength can take him. When in his Ghost Rider form, Johnny Blaze can press approximately 25 tons, which equates to 50,000 pounds. And in World War Hulk, he's known to lift even more than that, with Doctor Strange commenting that the character is capable of godlike feats, but its human host, in this case Johnny Blaze, prevents it from reaching its infinite power. And at number 9 is conjure a Hell Cycle. While the Hell Cycle is something that's pretty synonymous with the character, did you guys know that Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze can actually conjure one whenever he wants? Initially, Blaze's motorcycle would catch fire whenever he was in his Ghost Rider form, but later on it was revealed that he could just conjure a bike instead. Created from Hellfire, Johnny was able to craft a whole motorcycle from the tip of his finger. And at number 8 is he's immortal. Whoever is the host for the Spirit of Vengeance is immortal, and because of this, doesn't age. The Spirit of Vengeance is a celestial entity, so it itself cannot die, and when in Ghost Rider form, those who are its host are immortal too. But the host can die, as we've seen with host Danny Ketch when he became part of the Midnight Suns, and died once by the hand of Blade, and the other by Zarathos. Forever young, but can still kick the bucket. And at number 7 is Ghost Rider's regenerative abilities. So it should come as no surprise that Ghost Rider has impressive healing and regenerative abilities. Ghost Rider's shown the ability to regenerate from nothing before. Jack-O-Lantern literally annihilated Ghost Rider's skull in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow arc, only for Ghost Rider to immediately grow back. Or suck all the pieces back together. Either or, it happened. This adds to the argument that we'll be briefly touching on later with the discussion of some of Ghost Rider's other powers, the potential for matter manipulation, although we've yet to see any of the Ghost Rider hosts show the full extent of what they can manipulate. And at number 6 is control the weather. When Alejandra Jones became Ghost Rider, she had a few different tricks up her sleeve from what we had seen her male predecessors do, one of which was the ability to manipulate the weather. She's been known to create skull-shaped clouds, and pull some very storm-like shenanigans by summoning lightning to use as a weapon. We've yet to see the full potential of this trick, so who knows what other kinds of weather-related activities the character is capable of. Up next at number 5 is size shift. In Uncanny Avengers Annual Number 1 from 2014, it's revealed Ghost Rider has the ability to shift their size. When battling Thor, he increases in his size, and shoots hellfire out of his mouth, giving the Asgardian a run for his money. We've also seen this trick when Alejandra Jones took on Mephisto, and many fans think that whoever is helming the Ghost Rider alias is capable of using hellfire to manipulate matter, which includes other physical transformations we may have yet to see. But hey, they can also conjure a hell cycle out of hellfire. And at number 4 is his sixth sense. While it may be a little hard to conceive the idea that a character can have more than 5 senses, looking at you Mr. 9 Senses Martian Manhunter, Ghost Rider has an additional sense that's quite fitting of his character. He can sense sin. Similar to how a hunting dog can track an animal based off of their scent, Ghost Rider can track people based off of their sins. It's an ethereal enhanced extrasensory perception that lets him feel sin, in which he can see, smell, or simply just feel it. Up next, number 3 is clones. Once upon a time, Danny Ketch decided to wage a war against the spirits of vengeance, and in order to do so, he created Hellfire clones of himself. They would absorb the spirits after their hosts were dead, which made the clones even stronger. The trick does end up backfiring on Danny though, who is unable to fully control the massive amount of power he's unleashed, but it still earns him some pretty massive street cred in the process. In our number 2 spot is Ghost Rider can summon a plague of locusts. Associated with all things hellish and sinful on Earth, it makes perfect sense that Ghost Rider is capable of summoning terrors of biblical proportions, like locusts. We get to experience this fun little ability when Alejandra Jones becomes the next Ghost Rider, after Johnny Blaze decided to give up the curse, and she was chosen specifically by Adam to take up the mantle. The locusts shoot out of her mouth, and as she puts it, she's justice in its most ancient form. How fitting. But locusts, ah. And finally, in at number 1, Ghost Rider can set your eyeballs on fire. You guys have heard the saying, if looks could kill, right? Well, with Ghost Rider, that cliche gets the literal treatment. By making eye contact with someone, Ghost Rider can set their eyes on fire, unleashing a feeling of the torment of a billion extinguished souls and the pain of eternal guilt. This can cause its victims to go blind or potentially spontaneously combust. Yeah, ouch. Otherwise known as his pendant stare, it's been effective on characters like Galactus in the past. And as you can see in this animation, it's pretty terrifying.
Feel the torment of a billion extinguished souls. Experience the pain of eternal guilt.
And at number 10, the Reality Stone and Infection. Let's start off our list by talking about one of the lesser liked films in the MCU, Thor: The Dark World. Remember when Natalie Portman was in the MCU? I miss Natalie. Girl, the Thor franchise is way better now after Ragnarok, just come back. Anywho, despite your feelings concerning the film, it did give us a really solid glimpse at the Reality Stone, and some of the things that it's capable of. That includes infecting humans. Jane Foster, aka Natalie Portman, ends up finding herself in a dimension where the Reality Stone was hanging out in secret for thousands of years. When she gets close to it, it infects her with energy. Back when she's on Earth and a police officer attempts to touch her, her body explodes with energy, and it becomes clear that she has developed some sort of illness, one that mortal humans can't heal. So Thor takes her to Asgard, and then there's some cute little scenes with Thor and his fam talking about Natalie, and Lady Sif being all like broody and whatnot. Even the Asgardian healers can't figure out what's wrong with her, but lucky for her, Malekith, the film's evil dark elf antagonist, takes the energy from her, ultimately curing her. What exactly this kind of infection could mean later on down the line is still a big question mark, or whether we'll see something like that return to the MCU at all, considering it occurred in Thor: The Dark World, but you know, still nonetheless it's neat. And at number 9, the Reality Stone and Protection. While we're on the topic of the Reality Stone infecting people, let's take a look at the flip side of being stuck with a stone-inspired illness. It protects its host. When Odin realizes that Jane Foster has been bonded to the stone, he gives Jane and Thor the lowdown on how the Reality Stone can differ from the other Infinity Stones, or relics as he calls them. According to him, I quote, "It seeks out host bodies, drawing strength from their life force. Now despite making one ill, the stone doesn't want its host to be killed off, so it'll protect that host from external threats. This is why that energy exploded out of Jane when the police officer tried to touch her. It's also how those Asgardian guards got their butts whooped when they tried to bring Jane back to Earth using force. And at number 8, the Mirror Dimension. Back in Doctor Strange's debut feature film, we got to see the Mirror Dimension up close and personal. Then, during the battle on Titan in Avengers Infinity War, Doctor Strange attempted to trap Thanos in the Mirror Dimension as a means of protecting the universe from him, and from him causing any real damage. But that tactic did not work. This is thanks to the Power and Space Stones. Thanos used the two of them to shatter the entrance to the Mirror Dimension, countering Strange's attack before they even got inside of the dimension, meaning that some forms of magic just cannot compete with the awesome power of the stones. And surely if he had managed to trap the Mad Titan there, having the Space Stone would have gotten Thanos out of there in a jiffy. In at 7, the Reality Stone being a copycat. Coming back to the Reality Stone for this number, and Thor the Dark World. Now this number could possibly be chopped up to a plot hole or simply just bad writing. There's a reason why so many people don't like Thor's sequel film. In it, after Malekith gets the Reality Stone, many of the things that he pulls off, especially in battle with Thor, look jarringly similar to the kinds of things that the Power Stone can do. Sure, the Reality Stone has the ability to alter reality, contradict scientific laws, and fulfill desires that normally would be deemed impossible, but in Thor the Dark World, it really acts as a copycat stone of sorts. And number 6, Wake Up. Yet another fun little thing the Reality Stone can do. In Thor the Dark World, I'm sensing a pattern here guys, the stone wakes up Malekith and his dark elves from their thousands of years of hibernation. How come? Well, that's actually a really good question. The Reality Stone at times has a bit of a mind of its own, doing things like selecting hosts or being loyal to previous users. Malekith back in the day wanted to destroy the 9 realms using the stone in its ether form, and got close to doing it too before Asgard intervened and defeated them. So he and a group of his dark elves fought back, killed off their own, and eventually slunk away into hibernation. The Reality Stone being active again seemed to jumpstart them, waking them up. And at number 5, Mind Stone entering dreams. Moving on to a different stone at this number, the Mind Stone. So the Mind Stone is able to access an individual's subconscious, and by extension, their dreams. It can also put characters into a dream state and manipulate those dreams. Now this occurred in the Ultimate Marvel Universe in the comics, in which Modi, the son of Thor and Hela, attempted to usher in another American Civil War by taking control of various characters, including his father, all while using the Mind Stone. While using it on Captain America though, he used the stone to send him to a utopian dream world as a means of distracting the hero. But Cap eventually broke free by breaking the specter that the stone was hosted in. And at number 4, the Time Stone and Resurrection. In most cases in works of fiction, regardless of whether or not it's in the Marvel Universe, meddling with life and death, specifically with resurrecting the dead, often comes with major consequences. But one thing we learned in the MCU in Avengers Infinity War was that the Time Stone is capable of resurrecting the dead, seemingly without major consequences. Or at least if it does have consequences, we haven't learned of them yet. This was the case at the end of the film, spoiler alert, but you really should have seen it by now, when Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse time right before Scarlet Witch killed Vision, in an attempt to prevent the Mad Titan from getting his big purple mitts on the Mind Stone and completing his set of Infinity Stones. Thanos managed to go back in time just before Wanda is successful and then takes the Mind Stone out of Vision's body himself, killing Vision once again, but also claiming the last stone that he needed in the process. Up next, number 3, the Reality Stone and teleportation. You may think it's just the Space Stone that is capable of teleportation, but often because of the wide scope of abilities that each of the stones have, their abilities can overlap slightly. For example, we've seen in the MCU that the Reality Stone can be used for teleportation. This occurred in Thor the Dark World when Malekith, who was also awakened by the Reality Stone, uses it to teleport to dodge Thor's attacks when the two duke it out in the film. While it may not allow him to jump around to different dimensions or travel great distances, its teleportation abilities gave him an upper hand when fighting the Asgardian god. And at number 2, the Mind Stone's All-Access Pass. The Mind Stone has the ability to tap into the universal subconscious of all living things. That's because it is literally the manifestation of the universal subconscious. Give that a think for a moment. That's a pretty darn scary thing. So with power as massive as that, it makes sense that in the comics, it would be trusted to Professor Charles Xavier, someone who has experienced what it's like to communicate with multiple minds at once. Thanks to his powers, the Mind Stone can access every single mind in the universe all at once. Not only can it act as a giant speakerphone to spread a message to everyone in the universe all at once, but in combination with other stones, the Mind Stone could theoretically be used to manipulate and brainwash minds on a mass scale. Yeah, no bueno. And finally, in at number 1, pocket dimensions. Perhaps one of the coolest aspects of the stones, and one that hasn't really been explored a whole lot in the MCU, is that each of them have a pocket dimension that the stone has access to. We saw a bit of it at the end of Infinity War, when Thanos speaks to a young Gamora after he snaps. They're in the Soul World, the pocket dimension found within the Soul Stone. This led to major speculation that somehow Gamora is still technically alive. and also a theory that all the dusted characters were also alive. But inside Soul World, I mean, it would make sense considering she was sacrificed by Thanos in order to get that particular stone. Not sure about everyone else though. But the Soul Stone isn't the only one with a pocket dimension, as we mentioned. In the comics, in 2018's Infinity Wars comic event, we were introduced to the full scope of pocket universes tied to the Infinity Gems. The Time Stone has Ellipsis, a place that manipulates the flow of time for anyone within it. The Space Stone has the Vast, an endless expanse of empty existence that stretches into forever. Talk about an existential crisis in physical form. Ugh. Then there's the Mind Stone. It has the Mindscape, which allows the user to bring anything they imagine or dream of to life. It's also home to a race of individuals called the Sleepwalkers. Then there's the Power Stone, which has the pocket dimension of the Arena, which is essentially a coliseum of sorts where characters fight one another, which is ruled by Dynamis, who is the living embodiment of the power cosmic. And last but not least, we have the Reality Stone, home of the World Pool, which can be used to access alternate realities overseen by Archivist, the Chronicle of the Multiverse. What's super cool about the World Pool though is that all of the alternate realities are portrayed as an endless comic book collection. How very meta. Whether or not these other pocket universes will make their way into the MCU is yet to be known, but the potential is there, friends.
Number 10. Eternally Young. A lot of people think of Black Widow Natasha Romanova, or Romanoff, as most people know her thanks to her appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where she's played by Scarlett Johansson, as just an average human. Well, not average, a human who just so happens to be one of the best spies in the entire world. I mean, I wouldn't call that average, would you? But while she is mortal and human, that doesn't mean she's the same as you or I. She may not have outright superpowers, but over the years her origin story and even her identity somewhat has changed. One of the things we'd come to notice about Natasha is that she is eternally young. But unlike someone like Spider-Man, who is pretty much eternally young in his 20s or 30s, just without any need for an explanation, as everyone around him also maintains their same age, and May, I'm looking at you, Natasha actually has a reason for this. She was genetically modified and as a result doesn't really age the same as most people, instead maintaining an eternally youthful appearance, remaining in peak physical condition for as long as she is still alive. Number 9. Her belt. Black Widow's belt isn't just a stylistic choice, it is actually something she uses in combat. The belt is often said to be made of or filled with explosives. I gotta be honest though, wearing a belt made of plastic explosives seems like it would be, well, both useful and kinda dangerous, especially if you end up getting caught in an explosion yourself. Then you're surrounded by explosives. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like. Number 8. Russian Super Soldier. Those advancements we were talking about that keep her eternally young, that's not all she got with them. One of the things we'd come to learn about Natasha's origin is that she was actually experimented on when she was very young, coming under the care of the Red Room when she was but an infant. As such, she grew up being exposed to their version of the Super Soldier Serum. This increased her lifespan and also improved her immune system. It also is what allows Natasha to be so strong and resilient. Number 7. Wall crawling. Did you know Black Widow can wall crawl like Spider-Man? Which also I think makes some sense since we call her Black Widow, a little bit. Well, that's true. Although this one is not a superpower, but instead it's sort of a secret ability you may have not known about. In the Mighty Avengers Most Wanted files, this is explained as being an ability she possesses thanks to suction cups built into her suit. Honestly, you would think if this was a thing it would be kinda noticeable, but nah-uh, because those suction cups are actually microscopic, meaning that she can also look good, not terribly ridiculous or gaudy while she wall crawls, and making it almost look like this is a superpower she possesses when really it's all in her suit. She must have a lot of them though, because I don't know if microscopic suction cups have enough force to hold you actually onto a surface, but I suppose if you were covered in them, maybe. Anyways, comic book science, so we'll just let that one go. Number 6. Protected against illness. As part of the Red Room, Natasha and the other female spies had their bodies modified so that they are less susceptible to illness. Something that I kinda touched on earlier with the experimentation and everything, it grants them an improved immune system. But this doesn't just end there. It gets really creepy. But before we get into that, I also wanted to add that Nat has a small healing factor too as a result. It's believed she can heal 4 to 5 times faster than the average human. So yeah, she's no Wolverine or anything, but still, that's interesting to me. And even as a Black Widow fan, I didn't know until now that she had a healing factor, even if it feels, kind of minor in comparison to some other heroes in the Marvel Universe. However, that is not all her healing factor does. It has also been established in the comics that it prevents Black Widow and other agents from getting pregnant, as their bodies treat any potential pregnancies as illness, so that increased immune system, it's basically protecting them from pregnancy as well. Number 5. Resurrection. When Black Widow died in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I thought for sure she'd return, and that perhaps her own film, while being presented as a prequel to us, would actually be a sequel, revealing this to the audience. I was wrong in that regard. However, there is a precedent for me to have considered that the MCU might go this route. It actually comes from her comic book history. Here, Black Widow died while fighting against the evil Hydra version of Captain America. However, she was shortly thereafter revived, finding she even possessed the memory of her own death. It was revealed that she was a clone of the original with all her previous memories intact, and that the Red Room actually possessed tons of clones of her and others ready for their use. Black Widow would end up destroying this new version of the Red Room and would take the place of her original self. Now at this point, we don't even think of her as a clone, just as Black Widow. Still coming back from the dead and being revived is a pretty powerful thing, and I do still wonder if this might somehow ever be possible for Nat in the MCU. Probably they won't ever do this thanks to the introduction of Yelena, but I mean, there is a precedent for it. And yeah, I know this wasn't something Natasha had control over, so not really her own power, but it was something she was able to do, return to life after dying. And that, to me, is pretty powerful. And like I said, something we all take for granted these days while reading her stories. Number 4. Master of Gravity. For a single issue of Tales of Suspense, Black Widow became a Master of Gravity. This was after she successfully used her seductive abilities to steal Tony Stark, aka Iron Man's, accidentally invented anti-gravity ray. I kid you not, apparently Tony invented this by accident. Also, back when Natasha had black hair. By the end of the issue, Iron Man had found a way to destroy the ray, preventing Natasha from wielding its power. Of course, this was back when Black Widow was a villain, hence why she stole it and why her and Iron Man were at odds here. But for that one issue, hey, she could move a mountain. Pretty cool. Number 3. Olympic level gymnast. While I don't have a ton of information on how or when, I think we can assume that for this one, Natasha probably got a lot of her training as part of the Red Room. Although it isn't something that comes up in the stories in the comics, at least not as far as I've seen. I have seen it mentioned, though, in the Marvel Encyclopedia. And I feel like based on the way Natasha moves and what she can do, it makes sense that she would be considered to be at an Olympic level when it comes to her gymnastic abilities. Especially when you consider she may have also been a trained ballerina, depending on which origins you prefer to believe to be the true one for Nat. I know her being a ballerina was kind of retconned, but I love that origin for her myself, and also just based on her fighting styles and abilities, I think this makes sense. She definitely seems both very strong but also very flexible. Could you imagine if Black Widow competed in the Olympics and won? That is a story I'd weirdly love to read. Someone out there, please write that one shot for me. Otherwise, I'll have to get started on the Black Widow fanfic myself. Although, honestly, would people read my Black Widow fanfics? Maybe. Number 2. Luck-based powers. While we don't know this one for sure, it definitely feels implied when we meet her alternate self, the Red Cat. This version of Natasha is a combination of both Black Cat and Black Widow, which you'd think would make her known as the Black Cat still, or the Cat Widow maybe, but nah, she's the Red Cat because her hair is red and her suit is red, so Red Cat. In the comic Symbiote Spider-Man Alien Reality, Red Cat appears as an ally and lover of Spider-Man in this world, and also ends up being a traitor to him as well. She is presumed to have abilities similar to the 616 counterparts of both of these characters, meaning she is a master spy and an escape artist, and also presumably has luck-based powers, specifically causing bad luck to those around her. Number 1. That's not all they do. While many people know about Black Widow's wrist shooters, which are often used to shoot out energy blasts or small tasers, which have been referred to as Black Widow's Bite, that's not all these weapons can do. Initially, her weaponized gauntlets were known simply as bracelets, and they seem to be pretty much just that at the start. They were just bracelets, with the KGB officially even calling them bracelets. They would deploy a line that Widow could use to swing around on, but after meeting Spider-Man, Natasha was inspired to do some upgrades to her bracelets. At times, they have apparently been reported to be up to almost 9 pounds in weight each, due to their complex inner workings and their versatility. In addition to her Widow's line and Widow's bite, the gauntlets have also been known to emit tear gas, knockout gas, and carry explosives, while also being used as a communication device. The knockout gas ability has been referred to as the Widow's Kiss. Although I feel like, if you kiss someone and it makes you be knocked out, that doesn't seem good.
Number 10, super strength. This one is definitely pretty well known, but hey, maybe some people didn't know, so that's why it's on the list. Luke Cage's super strength is one of his coolest powers. It's helped him in a lot of very difficult situations. Not only that, but it also makes him one of the stronger Marvel heroes. He has been able to take down so many villains, and occasionally even other heroes with this power. And while yes, you may have heard of it, it needed to be mentioned because it's one of his most signature traits. Number 9, basically invulnerable. Yep, Luke Cage is basically invulnerable. There are certain things that can penetrate his skin, but not a lot. He can withstand bullets, knives, even some superpowered weapons. But he is susceptible to things like adamantium or certain magical weapons. In his TV show, there was even a special bullet called the Judas Bullet. It was made by Hammer Industries using leftover Tritari metal from the Battle of New York. It explodes once it's inside its victim, which instantly kills normal humans, but Luke Cage was able to survive it, although it did really hurt him. Number 8, super healing. Luke Cage's super healing is one of the best in the Marvel Universe. He doesn't even need it since nothing can really technically hurt him, but whenever he gets into a fight with another hero, or hit with adamantium, or shot with a Judas Bullet, he is lucky to have this ability. It is able to heal him back to full health, as if nothing happened. It doesn't happen instantly, but way faster than that of an average human. Number 7, super jump. This ability is tied to his incredible strength and durability. Because he is both strong and durable, he is able to use his strength to push himself off the ground and leap great distances. And it doesn't hurt him because of his durability. He could jump up to certain buildings or is able to jump off very high points and land without even a scratch. All of those traits definitely come in handy for any superhero. And not even all superheroes don't even have that. So the fact that Luke Cage does makes life a little bit easier for him when he goes out. To protect the city. Also, who would want to be able to jump great distances? That'd be awesome. Just jumping around the city. A guy can dream. Number 6, amazing fighter. This one is not so much a power, but ability. So I just wanted to clarify that right now because it'll probably be mentioned in the comments. But back to my main point. Luke is an insanely skilled fighter. While he was growing up, he constantly taught himself how to fight. And later on, he trained with one of Marvel's most skilled martial artists, Danny Rand, aka the Iron Fist. So, with all of that, he is truly someone you would not want to get in a fight with. Seriously, unless you have a death wish, then by all means, go right ahead and fight him. Number 5, enhanced speed. This power is not one that immediately comes to mind when you think of Luke Cage. But he does technically have it. Because of his strength, he's able to push his body a lot farther than the average human. Now, he's not as fast as people with super speed, but he would still be near the top of the list. Plus, he could run through things and it would not really hurt him. Unless it was some sort of adamantium wall or alien metal or something along those lines, then yeah, it might hurt him a little bit, but he'd bounce back. He is super healing, he's all good, you don't have to worry about Luke Cage. Number 4, super stamina. Stamina can vary from person to person. A lot of people will work for years to build their stamina up. So if they're, if they are a runner, or maybe they're just lifting weights, or maybe they're just some sort of any type of physical activity, they can last a lot longer. Luke Cage has amazing stamina. He was a strong guy even before he got his powers, but when he got them, everything was amplified. So he could literally fight for just a really long time, and he will never get tired. Even if he did eventually get tired, and that would be a while, the guy is a hero. He would keep pushing himself past all of his limits because that is what heroes do to protect the city they live in. And Luke Cage always wants to protect people. Number 3, hot and cold resistance. So since Luke is basically invulnerable, certain environments don't affect him like they would us. This applies to extreme hot and cold environments. While a lot of other people or even heroes would fall under these harsh conditions, Luke Cage is able to carry on and continue whatever he's doing. Like, it could be the coldest day, with snow and it's like super windy, and he could just walk outside, t-shirt, shorts if he wanted to. I mean, he probably wouldn't do that, but he could. And that is something that a lot of people might not know about him. But, some probably already do. Number 2, chemical resistance. Similar to what I was saying about hot and cold, chemicals don't really hurt him. Some, at least. I mean, there are some that could probably hurt him, but just average ones that humans are not supposed to interact with would have really no effect on him. Like, he could walk in a room filled with harsh chemicals and absolutely be fine. Whereas a human would probably need to wear a protective suit. It's a very useful power to have, if he's ever in a chemical plant or just clean the house. Number 1, Thunderclap. A lot of people attribute this ability to the Hulk. And in all fairness, I think Hulk does use it a little bit more, but Luke Cage has been known to use the Thunderclap on specific occasions. Basically, if he claps his hands together really hard, he can create this massive boom that could destroy buildings or just hit people back, and is a very useful thing to have, especially in tight situations if you're surrounded or you just want to move the fight away from a certain area.
Number 10, stepping discs. While many people think of Illyana's magical abilities and her soul sword, it becomes easy to forget sometimes that while a powerful magus, she is also a mutant, and that magic itself is not her mutant ability, but rather something that she was just trained in. Her mutant powers involve teleportation. She can teleport herself and other people through space and even through time, teleporting people as far away distance-wise as another planet. Her teleportation discs, however, are connected to limbo, meaning that whenever you move through one of her teleportation portals, you must first pass through limbo in order to get where you're going. It's still debated as to whether or not this is an inherent part of her mutant ability, or whether or not it was influenced by her time spent in limbo as a child when she was kidnapped. I like how I just keep alluding to that, but I'm not actually giving you anything else. I swear there's a point where I'm going to explain that a bit more. Number 9, mirror navigation system, also known as scrying. It's like Google Maps, but in a mirror. Illyana can call up a scrying glass to help her see where she is going, what it looks like inside and out, and also use it like a map to guide her to that place. She has done this before while in limbo. It's basically like Google Maps complete with Street View. And she can even use the glass to see the history of a place, learn about how it was created or made, something Google Maps doesn't have yet, but maybe one day. You can Google it though. You could be like, who made this church? When was it made? How was it made? Number 8, Queen of Limbo. Due to magic's connection to the limbo dimension, she is insanely powerful there. This power comes from years and years of training to harness the limbo energy. As such, she basically is the queen of limbo and is basically at god level when she is there. Limbo is also known as the other place. It is a magical dimension filled with demons and was originally ruled by the demon Belasco, who kidnapped Illyana when she was just a child. She was kind of like his apprentice / adopted child / potential future love interest until she overthrew him. And it's less like the religious limbo and more like a pocket dimension just filled with demons. To be honest, it's actually a surprise to me that she doesn't use this power more in battle. When you think about it, she could just teleport you to limbo if you were fighting her and then just do whatever she wanted with you there later. She really doesn't even need to use her soul sword most of the time, but I guess it just makes her feel cool and she thinks she looks cooler, so sometimes she prefers it to just doing away with you in limbo, or teleporting you just, like off in the middle of space. That's what I would do. Number 7, control over demons. As the ruler of Limbo, magic has control of demons within that realm. Even Siam, a demon who was originally Belasco's servant, was converted to her side. Also, sorry if my pronunciation offends you, I don't know how to speak demon. After being sent after magic to recapture her, she sneakily defeated Siam with magic and made him swear allegiance to her. Siam even remained loyal to her for a time before attempting to overthrow her rule of Limbo and control the domain himself. But for a time he was a very powerful ally, and even without him, Illyana has proved how powerful the connection to the demon realm of Limbo is by summoning demons to do her bidding. Number 6, psionic shields. This was more of a power that was touched on in older comics and now seems to have been somewhat forgotten. It was more of a power that magic leaned on when she wasn't as powerful with her magics or as accurate of a teleporter. She could use her psychic shields to protect herself against extremely powerful telepaths, including Charles Xavier. However, it has been shown that some of the most powerful telepaths can still get through her psionic defenses. Number 5, Eldritch Armor. This power is also one that isn't as often remembered. It comes from Illyana's ties to Limbo actually. As ruler of Limbo, she is granted magical armor, which can be summoned simply from her using her magical abilities, although it has also been shown to be summoned simply through concentration. Typically, the more that Illyana continues to use magic, the more that the armor will appear on her, eventually covering her whole body, but beginning to be assembled starting with her left side. It's important if you want to know all the facts about this armor. The armor, being magical, is lightweight and it protects her against magic. As time has progressed in the comics, however, her armor seems to have also come up less and appears to be less of a power. But perhaps she's also grown so strong that she feels like it is less needed, or maybe it's just been incorporated into her look and it just gets skipped over as an ability. But it's still there, we just don't really notice it. She's got her weird like little hat things. I always thought that was part of her armor. Number 4. Energy Blasts. Illyana can focus and channel Limbo energy through herself and emit it in blast form, kinda like Cyclops but with magic. Although really, they're both creating blasts through channeling energy from another plane. So actually not that far off from Cyclops. She can generally use this energy to shock or blast opponents away. She can also emit energy blasts from her soul sword. Number 3. Astral Projection. An ability often used by telepaths. As a powerful mage, Illyana can also leave her own body, projecting her astral self out into the world. She shares this ability with other powerful mages of the Marvelverse like Doctor Strange. Illyana often uses this ability to scout out places while in her astral form, which usually also conceals her from detection, of course unless other telepaths or magic users happen to be around. She can also transport herself to the astral plane while projecting and battle there, like most other telepaths. Not that she's a telepath. She's not a telepath, just so you know. Number 2. Healing Fire. The cool thing about having magical abilities is that you can kinda do almost anything. For magic, this includes healing. She has in her repertoire a healing ritual or spell. When she casts it, like in New Mutants Volume 1 Issue 17, it encircles her within a pentagram of white, hot flames. These flames then engulf her body and can heal her. Illyana herself is actually known to be skilled in both black and white magic, and her white magic knowledge actually came from an alternate version of Storm. True facts. Number 1. Can become invisible. Training with Doctor Strange made magic even more powerful. She already has all the knowledge imparted to her by Alternate Storm and Belasco and all of his magical texts, so adding in the teachings of Doctor Strange has made her kind of an insane level of powerful when it comes to her magic use. At one point she used her knowledge to turn herself and a group of other supers, including mutants and some Guardians of the Galaxy members, invisible. In a gambit to buy time when her teleportation powers just couldn't quite cut it. Because if you can't teleport people somewhere, just turn them all invisible and it'll all be fine.